Well, doesn't it just look like Christmas, Walter? Hey,
Good afternoon.
hello, nice to meet you. What a pleasure it is to talk to you so close before Christmas. Mine, thank you for having the time.
Likewise, and Merry Christmas.
Oh, wow. I am just seeing your background. It's just so special. Wow, wonderful. So today, it's time that we caught up. You've been involved in customs for so many years and so much this year. I've seen you everywhere, every meeting when it came to European customs, you were there, asking really interesting questions and questions that people ask you, and also offering suggestions, solutions, ideas of how we can take the customs union to the future. So we've been through an interesting 2023. It is just before Christmas, so let's catch up and let's talk about what happened this year. What is your takeaway from this year, and also take a look into 2024 and see what's on the horizon. So I think everybody knows you. We don't need to introduce you because you're well known customs man of the year. So 2023, you've been involved with so many trade associations at so many meetings with the EU Commission. Did anything surprise you? Did anything spark your interest? How was it like?
Well, I think, Arne, that is the most fascinating thing about customs. You keep on being surprised. And next year, I'm going to head into my 40th year in dealing with customs. Indeed, 2023 brought plenty of surprises. And I think basically we kind of expected it, but we knew that we would see challenges with the UCC work program. I mean, the IT deployment of systems that need to support the completion of the current UCC. Well, we've seen time and again that member states had to redo their deployment schedules, and we are afraid that that is going to have a knock-on effect into the next year. So we are talking about, for instance, ICS2 release 2 had to be deployed March. There was a period until October that was extended to November. Postal now has a deployment until April of next year, and we don't know if they are going to make it. We know that at UPS we did it at great effort, but it is certainly a very big challenge, and that's not the only one. We've seen a lot of delays in NCTS 5 deployments, and we know that after ICS2 release 2 comes release 3 for ocean, for maritime, and for road, and that after NCTS 5 comes NCTS 6. And then the cherry on the cake, centralized clearance. So yeah, we are a bit worried and concerned if the Commission and the member states are going to be able to stick to the timeline. So that is the first assessment of this year. The second assessment is the start of the green agenda. And this, with the carbon border adjustment mechanism, we've seen kind of increased role of the customs declarant, the indirect representative that in certain cases will be responsible for reporting for data that he doesn't really have a clue about. Because to calculate emissions, you need to have source data from the manufacturer, and in today's supply chain, that is really challenging. This is the start of a complete new development. It starts with CBAM, but we have deforestation. We'll talk about batteries, and there are a lot of new green agenda items that are coming towards us, and that will change the perspective of customs brokerage. Also means that as customs brokerage, we need to go to a different kind of approach towards data, because there is such an influx of data, and there are increased requirements, there's increased enforcement by the authorities, that you'll have to make sure that you have a better grip on your data, that you use automated sources, in certain cases, artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is an animal on its own, and it's certainly not the holy grail, but if it's used intelligently, it can certainly help. So that is also important. But I mean, the most important event of this year was the long-awaited publication of the customs reform. That
let us, sorry for interrupting, but let us just stay for the CBAM for a moment, if you don't mind, very quickly, because that's a big deal. And thank you for mentioning ICS 2 and then 3. So staying with CBAM at the moment, I had thoughts about this and reflected this with others recently. We're moving into an area where customs and ESG meets, and customs people are supposed to learn about ESG rules, and ESG people need to learn about customs rules. And really the future of I agree with you, we've never been to such a customs transformation as we have started in 2023. We heard about CBAM before, but now it really kicks in and we really know what it means. And what that means is the job spec of a customs professional. They don't just deal with classification, origin, evaluation anymore. Now the whole prohibition and restriction agenda needs to get to the forefront. Now, out of the sudden, forget about Kimberley certificates. Now it is about CBAM permits and certificates, and understanding how to calculate CO2 emission of cement, of hydrogen, in order to be even able to file this report. And with that said, and that's just the last point, how on earth would indirect representative file a CBAM report for information that they most likely will never gonna get unless you have direct access to an aluminium producer somewhere in Australia in a big plant?
Yeah, and I think that's also saying a lot about the European Commission and the way they have implemented the regulation, and certainly the implementing act. Of course, there is pressure on this commission to deliver. The green agenda has been a priority of this commission, and of course CBAM is one of these important measures. But we noticed that the legislation is not really very user-friendly. It's very hard to implement it, and we expect changes over the next years that make it more pragmatic. But it is very relevant because it's the start of a series of legislations that indeed fundamentally change the role of the customs broker, the customs declarant, because there are so much more components now to his job. And another example, I think we saw this year, was Russia sanctions, where at a certain point in time, almost immediately, shippers or importers needed to produce mill certificates to prove that the products did not contain Russian origin components, which is a totally different ball game, also very difficult to control over for a customs declarant. So I think it's symptomatic. We see that the European Commission is increasingly putting more strain on customs declarant, and they can the job of a customs broker has significantly changed.
Wow, that is, I noticed that as well. Before we move to the UCC and the customs union reform, which is a big topic in itself, just the impact of this, not on a customs broker or company, but for the whole of the EU. Now, I know this is politically maybe sensitive, but where does this all leave us? We need to learn so much more. We need to do so much more. We need to report CO2 emission that we never had to report. We need to, do geolocation of forestry and, things that I don't even really know what they are yet, but they're coming, they're down the pipeline. And out of the sudden, a customs manager gets dragged into this ESG meeting, that ESG meeting. Don't even think about forced labor provision coming in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
where does this leave European companies and European competitiveness, in your opinion?
I think we all agree on the measures. We all support the green agenda. We support sanctions against Russia. That's very clear. What we do not agree with is that these measures are implemented without the framework being available. And what I mean by that is that we do understand that European Commission and the member states need these data. They need to protect citizens. They need to protect the environment. However, the framework is not there. And then I come to the new UCC, where you have a European Customs data hub that is available for more than one party. I think the purpose of the Commission is to abolish, in the long term, the customs declaration, but make it a mix of data elements. And if you have these data elements provided by the correct party, the correct economic operator, then you can implement all these measures. But now it seems to me that we're putting the horse before the carriage. And the customs brokerage and trade is forced to do things that they are not suited for, even if they want to the best of our knowledge, that they will not be capable of. So the requirement is there, but the tools are not there.
Okay, so that means we need a bit more work. In 2024, I suppose 2023 was a bit of a shock when everything happened at once, right? We got the publication, we got ICS 2.2 in March. We got 2 months later the UCC / Customs Union proposals. We got CBAM in October, and we're still trying to figure out, and Russian sanctions all in between.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen in 2024? What's the workload for us customs professionals going to be like?
I think, well, there's going to be a knockoff of the items that were not realized this year. So ICS2 release 2 is still not finished. There are still airlines that do not report. There are the postal does not report yet. So that is going to continue. I think and I hope that European Commission will be flexible and adjust some of their requirements in terms of CBAM, because the whole concept of CBAM did not take into account the realities of e-commerce. If I order a barbecue of 200 euro, then I will, as a private person, need to calculate emissions when I import that. I mean, that is just not simply.
How do I do that, Walter? What's the emission of a barbecue?
Yeah. Good question, Arne. Let me know if you figure it out.
No, but you got to tell me what the direct are, then what the indirect are, what the precursors are.
Yeah.
Right? And then we got to write the operator of the installation who produced it.
Yeah.
Right, within the system boundaries, of course.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, as a private individual, I think it's a bridge. It's more than one bridge too far.
Yeah.
No. That's that. So, but I think the Commission starts to realize, because it's not only us as Express, but also other brokers have already informed the Commission that this is not what is realistic. And again, I think if you do not enforce measures that can be applied, then you have a counterproductive effect. So I'm very positive that the Commission will see this and will change the rules. Also, I think on NCTS, there needs to be some realism, because there are so many challenges related to deployments that it is not really realistic to expect that NCTS 5 will be fully deployed next year in all member states by all economic operators. And the same with ICS 2 release 3. And if you want to have safety and security, you have to cover the complete supply chain. You cannot say one mode does not have to do it, one mode is excluded. Well, then your supply chain is not secure.
Yeah, it's true. It's it cannot be a one focus approach. It has to be a holistic approach. Speaking of securing supply chain, two words came into my mind just now when you were speaking that are mutually exclusive. I thought, but then I was told in May that they're not. These two words are trust and check. So either I trust or I check.
Yeah.
But can I trust and check?
I think that's a philosophical question, but it put things into the customs, certainly into the customs reform, into a good perspective. Because I mean, our company is AEO in all EU member states, and what we have experienced, and not only us but also other economic operators, is that the focus of customs in enforcement is more on an AEO than on a non-AEO. The reason for that is an AEO is visible, is transparent, is easy to control. So when we now look at the trust and check trader, which is a super AEO, and in reality is actually the same as an AEO today, if the UCC would be fully deployed, which would be self-assessment, entry into the record, centralized clearance, then, well, we would not need trust and check trader. However, okay, let's suppose we go for it. Then we would open our systems to any other government agency. Now, we don't have anything to hide. We are compliant companies, but why would we would we allow any government agency to enter our systems unlimited, without restrictions? I mean, we also have our data privacy restrictions internal. There's GDPR. So I think that is something that will be explained and resolved over the next years. And I think basically when we talk about 2024, 2023, the Commission launched the EU customs reform proposals. They made a long way through Parliament, and I think in February of next year we'll see a report of Parliament. Of course, then we have EU elections, and we don't know how the new Parliament is going to pick up the file. We know that it is now with the Council also, and the work in the Council is a bit slower than in the Parliament, and there's a bit more discussion on the customs reform proposals. So we expect that this will continue next year, and we'll still be with the Council talking in 2025, because the member states have a lot of subject matter experts that have also their very specific views on the plans of the European Commission. So I think that is going to make next year very interesting to see what is going to be done through the Belgian presidency and the Hungarian presidency. But I don't think we'll see a final product ready for a trialogue before 2025.
Okay, so a bit more time. So it's more of a transition to something that is 2024. CBAM, we need more adjustment, more implementation and guidance. 24 also for the customs union, more discussions in trial, well, in council and in parliament, without something that I as a importer or exporter now need to change. No. What would you say? So obviously, we as trade associations, people that are on the trade contact group, people that speak to the Commission, to the Council, to the Parliament all the time, we are a little bit different from those that actually have to implement the whole thing, the import managers, the export managers. So we have our work talking to the institutions, but what should they do? What would you say is a good course of action for an importer and exporter who's not talking to government, but just tries to get on? What would you say? What should they focus on 2024? Thinking about CBAM, thinking about deforestation, thinking about what's on the pipeline, UCC reform. What's the best thing they should do in 2024?
Well, the best thing always to do is make sure that you have the knowledge in place, the knowledge about the current rules, and that you have a due diligence on your own organization, on your data, on your customers, that you work towards compliance. I think that is a buzzword that is very important. If your data are correct, if you provide quality data, then I think that's the only way to do business. And also knowledge. So I can recommend them the Customs Manager. No pun intended. But no, I mean, customs, unfortunately, is becoming increasingly complex. We started out, I mean, back to my 40 years ago with a typewriter, and putting everything in threefold through the typewriter, with bunch of paper. We emerged towards EDI, and we started, rather than inputting data, assessing and validating data. And we are now going into a next phase where we use additional sources like AI and automation to come up to a more systemic process. And I think that is the way we move ahead. So I also think that from our traditional role, collecting or calculating import duties, VAT, there's now more than 300 other legislations that we need to apply, the so-called non-fiscal items. There is a need for expertise. There you need to learn. So yeah, the declarant of today needs to be omnivalent, polyvalent. He needs to know just more than calculating duties, applying origin, classification. There's more than meets the eye, and that's what makes, I think, the job and the role of a customs declarant one of the most interesting in the business.
It is. I can confirm the amount of legislation I had to look at that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
When I started doing the filing a couple of years ago now. It's quite impressive, huh? Yes. Wow. What one last question before we close, and that is on this reform proposal. We talked a lot around it, but I stopped you when you were getting into this. So I wanted to give you the floor again to talk a little bit about the reform proposal, but also maybe, you know, since we're getting to Christmas, bit more kind of positive. We've been talking a lot about all these data, and we don't have the details and whatnot. So come on, there must be something positive about this. After all, you and me, we sat in rooms together discussing customs union in 2040, and we said we will had a declaration that said we will act as one. We will be seen as one. We will make customs declaration obsolete. We were the one that helped formulate this. Mm-hmm. Then we talked to Arancha Gonzalez with her Wise Persons Group. What did she say? She said, we need massive simplification. We need to do away with customs clearance. And now you've got this amazing reform. You must be excited about this.
I'm excited, and I can only tell you what I tell my children. Because customs is an abstract phenomenon, but I can tell them that if you work with customs, that you're doing a very important job. And we don't realize that every day, of course, but we are the gatekeepers. We are responsible for protecting Europe, for making sure that we make a more sustainable Europe and a more wealthy Europe. So I think that is also the intention of the European Commission, because we always look into the detail, but we forget sometimes that everybody's trying to do a very good job. And we also forget that the customs union is a unique experiment in the world that is the basis of our single market. So no, and in that perspective, I think we can only be positive for the future, and 2024 is going to be a terrific year.
So speaking of that, the last two questions are a bit more personal. So 2024, what is the thing that you may want to share that you are looking forward to the most in 2024? That's a question, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a very good question. Well, I mean, this is this is a bit personal, but
only the world watching.
I mean, after 40 years in the business, I hope that I can keep as healthy and as happy as I have been in the previous 39 years in the job.
Wow, that is so good to say. Thank you so much. That's really, really cool. Of course, we all wish that. We all wish that. We need you so badly. So please, we'll wish you good health and good luck. And then final question. Christmas is approaching. We're slowing everything down. We're shutting the offices. Okay, some express carriers still have to work. But hey, you know, normal people like us, we just relax on the fire. And you know, the Christmas tree behind me is already there. The presents are ready. What are you going to do? Tell us about a Belgium Christmas. Some frites moule or what?
Yeah, well, my wife's Italian. We have a house in the Dolomites, and it's probably going to be a Prosecco and panettone. So it's going to be an Italian Christmas. Oh. And by the way, Arne, I wish you and your family also a very happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and also a very healthy and happy 2024.
Thank you very much. And the same to you, to your family, and to your friends. And have a wonderful start into 2024. And then we have lots of opportunities to catch up and move that customs union and all the bits around it to the next level together. That would be so cool.
Looking forward to it.
All the best. Thank you so much for catching up.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ciao.